everyone, to the last episode of this series on the Black View. This episode is titled "I Am Here." My name is Kelvin Boateng. I'm an MMark in the class of 2021. Today we are joined by Professor Owens, and I'm excited to hear his thoughts on the Black faculty experience and the Black faculty's experience and how that impacts the students here at Owen. So, Professor Owens, would you like to introduce yourself to our today?
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. So my name is Dave Owens. I'm a professor in the business school. I'm also the executive director. I run the Innovation Center, the Campus Innovation Center. I have been at Vanderbilt about 20-something years, 22 maybe. Came in 1998 from Stanford. I'd done my PhD there and some other degrees. But and it seemed like, what else about me? I actually am half German. I grew up in Germany, came to the U.S. when I was 18. And partly didn't know I was Black. That was an interesting experience to learn what that meant. But anyway, but I've had a great time. I've stayed at Vanderbilt. I actually took a little break in there, but I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to interview with you.
Great, yeah. So we're really excited to have you on today. I guess we'll just dive into some of these questions that we prepared today. And the first of which is kind of relevant to what you just said, which is why did you decide, coming from Stanford, you probably had a lot of different options and, could have probably gone anywhere through a few degrees there. What made you come to Vanderbilt? Why start your career here?
Yeah, Vanderbilt it was late 90s. And I mean, part of it, the realistic part was that I was close to finishing my PhD. We ran out of money, had 2 kids. It's like, okay, I need a job. I really need a job. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, Vanderbilt was trying to move to a new place, and we really are at a very different place than we were, 20 years ago. You can sort of go back and look at the rankings. All that stuff is very different. But I felt like it was a small place. It has so in the business school, we have about like 400 to 500 people in the building on a daily basis, not like 2,000 or whatever, like some schools have. And so I came out and did an interview, and it was sort of weird because I kept thinking, like, they must want something. Like, people want something. Like, I was standing at the bus stop and someone seemed like they wanted something because they were so friendly. It's like, are they trying to like steal something? Or like, why is everyone so friendly? And so we realized that, I began to realize that people just were friendly and they just wanted you to like they really wanted you to like Nashville and also like Vanderbilt. And so based on that, we found a great school for our daughter, we had a 5-year-old and an 8-month-old. The 5-year-old found a great school for her, right across the street from campus. It was sort of like, I don't know, human scale. It's sort of funny because now we sort of use that as kind of a tagline at Owen, and that we're kind of human scale. Mm-hmm. But it really was some place where I got to know everyone on the faculty. There were about 40 faculty total. We all knew each other. Some schools, I have a colleague at Ohio State. He's got 40 people just in operations. Oh, and we have them all, all across. And so you could really, it's interdisciplinary. People are curious across disciplines, and so it's great place for a person like me. Is like, my mom said, like, you have trouble focusing. So, I'm one of those people, and so I need to be exposed to lots of different things in order to feel fed from it.
Yeah. I mean, what is your journey over 28 years? You've watched Owen grow so much, right?
Yeah.
Over 28 years, you've watched Vanderbilt grow and change. You watched Nashville as a city grow and change. Kind of what is your perspective been on that change, on that growth?
Yeah, it's interesting because it is, I think, so I was in Palo Alto at Stanford, and then I worked in San Francisco, and I came back, I don't know, I had actually 2 careers before I went back and did a PhD in to become a professor. But in the Silicon Valley, it was getting kind of obnoxious. Like, people are driving around their Ferraris. It's like, come on, people, really? Because it was all paper wealth. It wasn't real money. And so the thing that I began to feel was that people wanted to, and it's even worse now, that they only wanted to get to know you if they know that you can do something for them. Like, if you can get them a job or get them some, something like that. And so that was something I left. And Vanderbilt at the time was much more earthy, or much more down to earth. Huge music scene. I really love music. I'm a musician, and I'm not a musician. I poke around at instruments. I'll call it that. But there's like a kind of creativity, a kind of when I interviewed, someone told me that Nashville had more microphones than people. Because of all the recording studios, all the music, and so it was neat. It turned out that I ended up being a little bit too intimidated by all the awesome musicians here in town, but and so I felt like Vanderbilt was sort of turning a corner where it was trying to get on a national stage, where it was really thinking about more broadly about we're in what's called the Mid-South region. And probably for several hundred miles out, we had like the biggest hospital. We had the first, the most blue chip university all around. And then around that time, the 2000s, it started before I got here. I got here in '98, but before that, I think that there was a movement towards saying, like, let's own that. Let's own the fact that we're a big university, that we're here, that we have all this research going on, we have all this healthcare stuff happening. And it's a really good place to be. It's not, as far as the people are nice, as far as the business climate's really good. It was a good place to be. And so I think Vanderbilt really just took a series of steps that were very strategic. I came here 2 provosts before, 2 chancellors before, but they all sort of kept taking us down this direction of saying, like, let's move this university further along the path. And so now I feel like we're at this place where it's just pretty amazing. I'm running into people who left California recently now to be here.
Yeah,
because it's people are nice. We have the infrastructure. We have lots of creativity. We get lots of access.
Right.
It's a good place to have a business. So yeah,
that's perfect. I mean, so much growth has happened. I mean, on the and you have a really good sense of like the business culture here in Nashville. You have a really good sense of business schools. You have a really good sense of like Vanderbilt's growth and other schools' growth as well. And to get a bit more specific about the Black experience, right? Mm-hmm. How have you seen numbers of Black candidates, the way in which they're recruited, the experience of Black candidates on campus? How has that changed as Nashville's grown, as Vanderbilt's grown?
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot. And I would just be honest that it was more in the past. It's becoming less so. There's like a bit of segregation, I think. It's just historic more than anything. I did a project in the School of Education. I have a lab there, the SLAM, Space Learning and Mobility, and we did a thing where we had everyone put a app on that basically just recorded GPS points of where you went, and you do it for like a month. And we looked at the data. It was kind of interesting on a map because people went everywhere except around North Nashville, which is like sort of a Black neighborhood. Yeah, and it's not like everyone who had done this was an evolved, or a woke human. It's just that all the things that you would want to do, like there's no mall there, there's no grocery store there, there's no, all the kind of things that people normally did. And so that's the case. And I think in some ways, people who move here have a better time of it than people who sort of grew up here. Mm-hmm. Although I think it's changing. I mean, I think it is. I think it's changing a lot, especially with the current administration is really pushing harder towards that. Projects like this project, right, to sort of talk about the Black experience at Vanderbilt is really a welcome thing there. And I think because of where Vanderbilt was ranked, a lot of the hotshot African American academics would get pulled up immediately to, Harvard, Columbia, schools like that. And so we were at this place. Now we're getting to that place. And so now we're able to recruit those same kind of students, those same kind of faculty, and even administrators as well. And so it's pretty, it's kind of weird, those dynamics where you have to get to a place where people are willing to make take the risk of being here. And so, but I mean, for me, it didn't feel like too much of a risk because people were so nice about it. And people were very welcoming. And so, yeah.
That's so amazing. And getting even deeper into that in terms of like numbers of people, mm-hmm. numbers of Black candidates, numbers of Black faculty, how has that changed? How has that developed? Starting with the Black candidates, has that grown over your time here at Owen? How does that compare to our some of the schools that we compete with?
Yeah. It's good. I think what we do is I think we are still learning how to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that it had been I think the recognition arrived kind of late that, hey, you really need to be proactive about this. Right. It's like just being a good school doesn't mean people are going to want to go there. especially if they're Black. I mean, that or Hispanic or Latinx or whatever. They're not going to want to just go there because of that. They're going to want to go there because they feel like there's a community there. There's a place that's going to be welcome to them. And so that's something that has been taken very much more seriously, probably in the last 5 years or so. It comes and goes. There are times when there's lots of Black candidates, lots of Black students, and there's times when there are fewer. It tends to happen more when there are when we make an effort with our recruiting to have Black recruiters, to have people who are able to talk about it. We do have a number of former or alums of Owen, of the business school. So I'm Owens at Owen. So alums at the business school who work in our recruiting office and really so the same kind of things that you're doing. And so I think that's the effort that we have to make. As far as Black faculty go, it has been, we have faculty of color. We don't have many other Black faculty. Right now I'm the only Black faculty at the business school. However, I know there's a movement, not a movement, initiative we're calling Destination Vanderbilt. They're going to hire like 100 faculty. And I'm sure a good significant proportion of them are going to be Black faculty. So yeah. And also as more people move here and as more people feel like, okay, like, they do wear shoes and they have cars and, I mean, the kind of stereotypes that people have in the South, I think that you begin to realize. And the thing to know also about Nashville is very, very progressive. We're sort of like this blue island in a red state. And I think we're very progressive in that it gets lost on sometimes. If you go somewhere like Atlanta or somewhere like that, it's becoming more clear. Mm-hmm. There it's becoming even more clear in the national politics. But here in Nashville, we are very progressive. And lots of civil rights stuff happened here. Lots of those things happened here, and people take that seriously.
100%. I guess continuing to go into that, the idea of change and how that changes over time. What are some steps that you feel Vanderbilt still needs to take? What are some changes that you still wish to see from the institution at large and from Owen in terms of bettering the Black candidate experience and also bettering the Black faculty experience? How do we hire more Black faculty and how do we retain them better and thing for students? Yeah,
it's interesting because it's sort of the it's like the we don't want just more Black faculty, we want more awesome Black faculty. And so that's where you have to just, I don't know if it's not necessarily like opening your wallet, but it really is being so one thing that we're doing, I think, as a university, and it's probably been about the last 3 or 4 years, the Innovation Center opened. That's something that I run. And that's a place where I have power to recruit. I'm also there, for example, there's a program with the National Science Foundation that has teams of students work on some kind of STEM technology to commercialize it. The National Science Foundation gives them $50,000. They have to come through us to get that. And the teams were kind of, the kind of white and kind of, male, not super diverse. And so one thing we've been doing is we've been reaching out to some of the HBCUs. We have 3 historic Black universities in town: Tennessee State University, TSU, Meharry Medical College. More than half of the Black doctors in the country were educated at Meharry. And then we have Fisk University, also a well-known university. And so one thing we're doing is we're reaching into those universities and saying, hey, we have this entrepreneur center, we have this innovation center, we have these maker spaces, send your students over here. If you can't or don't have the want to make the investment in that, we've made the investment. We're really love to do that. So I think that's something that happens because what we want to do is to diversify, really. So it's not just like more of the people. You don't need any more of me. You need more people who are a little slightly different than me, and I think that's going to be the how we grow. So what the university can do is keep doing that outreach. I think what the university can also do is some things like we did. There was a dorm that was called Memorial Hall, but the real name was Confederate Memorial Hall. And so what they did was they had to go to court and they got sued, up and down by the Daughters of the Confederacy or whatever the group was. The chancellor was getting death threats. And basically they did it, right? They had to do those kind of things. And so there's things like that are happening. I think the other thing is to certainly expand access in terms of economic access, as the rich get richer and the poor stay where they are. it's harder to afford a college education, especially at Vanderbilt. I mean, we're getting in the 50s, 60s, 70s per year. And so funding that is really important.
Yeah.
And so I think those are some of the kind of things. And at the graduate level, I think what we can do is we can make sure that our students get great jobs, like people like you and people like your colleagues who are putting this thing together. I think that put the word out that all of our students get jobs and they get great jobs.
Yeah.
The problem that we sometimes have is too many of them want to stay here because it's nice and it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
And go out where you can make a lot of money. Like,
That's true.
That raises our rankings. If you make more money, the more our rankings go. But I think that putting that word out, and the MAC program, the Masters of Accountancy program, the students have jobs like the day they arrive on campus. I mean, they literally have a job the day they arrive on campus. Mm-hmm. And I think for people who are trying to, especially if you come from a more modest means background, you don't want to leave with a lot of debt and no job. I mean, you want to leave with a job, and you want to be able to use your signing bonus to pay off a significant portion of the loans you took out. Mm-hmm. And that's possible here. And that's really has become possible. Yeah.
That's amazing. So as we talk about kind of the things that Owen, that the school allows candidates to be able to do once they've gone, what's some of your advice for candidates interested in applying to Owen and becoming a student at Owen? As they learn about the candidate experience overall, to get more into like the Black candidate experience, how to be successful in the application process, how to be successful as students here at Owen, how to get some of those high-paying jobs with the big sign-up bonuses that you talked about. So, like, how do we get there?
That's hard for me because I don't have an MBA, so that's sort of so I'm not a Black MBA really, but I mean I have other kinds of degrees, but not that. But and I've not been a student at Owen, so that's also hard for me. But what I do know from the students I've talked to is that I think the same advice I'll give to anyone, actually, Black, white, whatever. Business school is really broad, especially if you're going to do the MBA. Business school is really broad. It's like you could do like hardcore quantitative stuff. You could do really like you, Kelvin, you do marketing, right? You can do sort of marketing, more creative stuff, and really everything in between.
Yeah.
And if you come here really not knowing what you're interested in, it's great if you're like me who can't focus, but it can be debilitating because you only have 2 years and you're trying to sort of get to somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I think one thing is really understanding, at least, chop off half the universe and say, okay, I'm more quantitative or qualitative, or I'm more, about people or more about things, or I'm more about process or more about, structure.
Yeah.
And then if you can do that, then it becomes a little bit easier to sort of find your way through. I mean, it's not that you can't change your mind. I mean, you can. But what I think it's important is to come in knowing, at least having some inkling of an idea of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so there, I would not recommend for a candidate to come who's just buying time, or just like, well, I could have gone to grad school, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. I'll just go. Or, my boss is kind of a jerk, so I'll just go to business school. I think really to say, like, if you're going to come here, and especially if you're coming here under with a scholarship or something like that, that there's kind of an obligation that you're going to actually make something out of it, because that's a position, a slot that someone else could have done.
Right.
And if they're going to go out and make the world a better place, and you're just going to sort of sit here and dabble, then I think that's worth thinking about. Like, how are you, what's your obligation by accepting a scholarship or by accepting something like that? Yeah. And so I think that's something there. And I think also getting in touch with the current Black students, there's some amazing alums, some amazing current students, and they're all over the place. I mean, you can find them at Google, you can find them you can find them everywhere, both Black and white, and talking to them about the experience and talking to them about, the friends they made, and do they stay in touch. I think that would be an important thing.
Yeah.
It's one thing that, to have lots of Black students around, but if you're not friends with them, or if you don't stay friends with them, that there's information there also.
Yeah.
And then there's people like, Stephen Reed. I remember him as a MBA student. Stephen Reed is, as listeners may know, was the first Black mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery has a big history in civil rights. Anyway, he became the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. I remember him as a student. He was a little bit ornery then. He was, he's very opinionated, and sort of he knew what he was trying to do. He did the law degree also, and so he stayed in touch with people. I mean, we exchange emails and stuff like that, and I think that that says a lot. I mean, that says a lot. And he also was one person who helped us understand the need to change.
Yeah.
There were times in my career here where I had to be, the kind of publish or perish, or really, um, focus on my role as a faculty member. As much as I'm Black, but I still had to produce papers and produce research and do those and teach and do those kind of things. And so you can kind of lose track of the world when you do that. And so you need people like Stephen Reed, or people like you, Kelvin, and what you, Brianna, and Taylor, and what you guys are doing to make us remember, wait a minute, there's a world out here, and we need to, we interface with it. There's a boundary that we have to, our students go to it, out of it, and they come back into it. Right. We need to understand that. Yeah.
100%. And then, we're going to dig into that just a bit more.
Yeah.
As the sole currently, as the sole Black faculty member at Owen, right? What do you perceive your impact to be for Black students at Owen? I know that, in getting this podcast up and running, getting the series up and running, a lot of that, we came to you to kind of, have, start those conversations. I know you support a lot of the, I know you support a lot of the different, kind of initiatives that we have going on around diversity. But not just you, but also other Black staff at Owen. What is that impact for Black candidates?
Yeah, I'll say that one thing to be clear, the Vanderbilt is we're on a small piece of dirt. So there's we're not super big campus like we have, and from the business school, from my office in the business school, I can walk over to, I have an office in the innovation center, and it's I think I timed it a 7 minutes or 8 minute walk. In between, I could have stopped in engineering school. I could have stopped in the nursing school. I could have stopped in the medical school, the MD school. I could have gone into an operating room. I could have stopped at the student center. I could have gone to the Black student center. I could have on the way between my the 6-7 minutes between the two offices. And so there's a lot of I don't call porosity. There's a lot of opportunities to interact with a lot of people. And so I'm the only Black faculty member at Owen, but I'm a part of a larger group of faculty, Black faculty at the campus.
Yeah.
Everything from African American studies to medicine to biomedical engineering to divinity to nursing, right? So we're colleagues. We meet. We have a caucus. We spend time together, and so there's sort of a shared obligation that we have that we take on. Sometimes it's hard because if you're the Black person and they say, hey, there's a photo shoot, where is he? Get him out here. And so, I mean, as a candidate, if you may enter into a company where you're the solo, you're the Black person, they're trying to diversify, they're trying to do the right thing, and they bring you in. And so you get, I don't know, I call it race fatigue a little bit sometimes, where you're the role model, and you feel like you have to speak for all the for the Black students, or for the Black staff, or the Black faculty. And just to reiterate something I said earlier, I grew up in Germany. Yeah. I mean, my dad is Black. He was in the army. He's military. My mom's German. She's German as German gets. She's 5'2", blue eyes, blonde hair. Right. And so and my parents live in Germany, and I'm bilingual. I grew up speaking German and English, and so my experience as a Black person is really different. I feel like that's something that we often don't see, is that we don't see the diversity of Black experiences. I'm more like Black people than I'm like white people, but I think we Black people are really different from each other, and that sometimes when a candidate comes here, they need to understand that part of it is really to have your own experience, to find your to validate yourself as a Black person, and that there's not a lot of sort of sort of like generic or more archetypal Black stuff going on, but I think there's an appreciation of your experience. And I think there can be an appreciation of the diversity of thinking, the diversity of experience that can be here. And so just to go back to this idea of I'm walking from my office at Owen to my office over at the Innovation Center, I'm talking to my friends in engineering. So I have a lot of friends in engineering school who are, I'm kind of a nerd, a kind of nerdy person, but I also, can go to divinity school. We have a social innovation program at the Wond'ry, which is the Innovation Center. And we spent a lot of time thinking about, the community, thinking about the fact that when those GPS traces came back, there was none over in that area. How are we going to get over there? How are we going to make that happen? Mm-hmm. And so that, as a Black faculty member, I feel like there's a lot to do, but I don't feel like I'm past the point of feeling like I have to carry it all. Yeah. And I think that we as a university are getting past the point where it's like we're bringing people in as tokens, or we're bringing people in just because we need to hit some diversity numbers. And we're getting to a place where we can say, like, those people, we people make this place a better place by being here, because we come with different experiences. We come with different ways of thinking. We come with different demands. We come with different gifts. Yeah. And all those things. I mean, you, Kelvin, like, you're like into Black opera. I mean, that's diverse, right? I mean, you have you're real, you bring something like completely different. That's why I like, this place, because I can meet you. Yeah. In some schools, I can't meet you because I can't meet a student who was a Blair student. That is, Blair is our school of music. I can't meet a student from Blair. I can at Vanderbilt. Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Professor Owens, for your insights. And for your thoughts on kind of the Black candidate experience, Black faculty experience, and so much history about where Vanderbilt's been, where Nashville's been, and where we're going. Yeah. And so I hope this is kind of insightful for any candidates interested in coming to Vanderbilt and undertaking furthering their education at the Owens Graduate School of Management. So thank everybody for tuning in and listening. Thank you, Professor Owens. I know you've got some stuff to run to this morning. Yeah. So I want to thank you so much for coming in. And again, just want to remind everyone that this was the last episode of this series on the Black View, titled I Am Here. Thank you.